We'll bring this meeting to order. First order of business is to approve the minutes. Have you reviewed them? You looked on, Jim?
Yes.
I would move that they be accepted as written.
Second? Favor?
You come? Next thing is a review and approve the warrants. You guys had something to do with that?
Yeah.
I move that they be approved.
Second?
Debbie's added a couple more bills in here, so we next thing is a disorderly house ordinance. You know, for sure, run until he's on his way. He's close enough then. I'm waiting for you. Yep, yep.
Meeting is open, sir?
You can have a seat here if you like.
Up in the front.
Right, we won't bite.
All right. I've been told that before.
Well, let me just give you a little bit of background. You familiar with the drafted?
I am. I have it electronically.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So, we've had a situation where, we've had repeated issues with a house, and, we were looking for a way to put some kind of, an ordinance in place that would allow us to kind of, get people incentivized to, I guess, to reduce that type of activity. And so we drafted this ordinance, and it relies heavily on a police presence, at the house, making reports and whatnot. Baldwin and many towns in the county do not have their own police force, so. What we're looking for is maybe your comments and your thoughts on the ordinance, and, any advice.
So I've read the ordinance. I refreshed myself this morning on it in preparation for the meeting. Obviously, it's been brought before the town council, SEL, meaning their attorney, correct?
Right.
So there's nothing in there that's the way a local ordinance works. Is generally speaking, they're not enforceable, as the ordinance itself even says, that it wouldn't be enforceable by us, right?
Right.
It appears more to be a collection of our enforcement actions that would then prompt you folks, your council, to enforce the ordinance, if that makes sense.
Right, the way it's structured is, if we gain or have X number of reports that is considered to be disorderly activities at the house within a certain period of time, the select board then calls a meeting.
Sure. The way I see that working is pretty simple. Whether it would be this body or another body that would, I'm assuming on a regular basis, collect that data. I don't know as relying on a deputy or a group of deputies to provide that data regularly, as opposed to a member of this body or somebody from the town reaching out to our information clerk or crime analyst, you know, on a set basis. Because in my world, 60 days and 3 visits could be something that I remember, or it could be something that I don't remember. As you all know, I was supposed to be here at a meeting 3 weeks ago, and I totally forgot about it. I was home with a sick kiddo and forgot to let you guys all know I could be here. So I just wouldn't want it to be reliant upon the memory or on the responding deputy. I think there should be some other mechanism by way that those reports make their way to this body, which is a very simple solution. In my mind, it's a very simple, I mean, that can be something that's done as easily as emails or phone calls that just are on automatic to our crime analyst to find out how often we're here.
Okay.
Or at a particular residence. I know we're all speaking about one residence in particular, or that was what has been the catalyst for this ordinance.
Right.
Well, the ordinance itself, just so everybody understands, for example, the town of Standish, when I first started at the sheriff's office, the town of Standish had a town ordinance that went kind of above and beyond what the state ordinance does for loud noise. And it was geared towards one particular bar that caused, an issue with some of the neighbors. So the way that worked is we didn't necessarily enforce that ordinance. That was still up to code enforcement. We just took reports of violations of that ordinance, and then we worked with the code enforcement to actually enforce that, which is kind of what's built in. This ordinance has that built directly into it.
Yeah. Well, the enforcement of it is that we would take it in court.
Right.
Court, because we couldn't get an agreement to. So, all right.
So as you accurately and the order have stated, you're reliant on us.
Somebody to take somebody who goes to the house and takes a report of certain types of activity.
Correct. But the ordinance, when it goes into effect, will be for effect for the whole town.
Right.
And so just one of the things to keep in mind is, as many of you have had probably the opportunity to figure out in your times of citizens involvement, you might not see us as frequently as you do in other towns. And you know that our response time here can be, so I guess my point is, the way those reports are going to get created, outside of a citizen writing a statement or an affidavit to this body, would be people picking up the phone and calling 911 or calling our dispatch centers. That's ultimately what we're going to become reliant on, is people who want to call and put this, have these issues taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be able to I guess my point is, we're not going to be able to proactively look for opportunities to enforce or document.
They're going to respond to 911 calls.
Bingo. Right?
So Bridgeton has a disorderly house ordinance.
Yeah.
Do you folks support them?
We would support them in addition to their local police department. And that's where it blurs a little bit. Some town ordinances, and I don't want to speak out of school, And we're not, are we being recorded like all over?
Yes.
So if anybody here or wherever we could be watching, I don't want to speak out of school, but there's a difference with towns that have their own police departments as far as how some of those local ordinances can be enforced. So in some cases with a town police department, they can enforce local ordinance that we might not be able to without having some further agreement with each individual town. But I don't want to speak too much or confuse that because I don't know.
Your Shad, your boss told us that about 2 years ago.
Did he?
Yeah.
Almost the same word.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can tell him I said that.
He sent you an email?
Yeah, no. As a matter of fact, I just told them today that I was coming to this meeting to remind them, so.
Is there anything else, things that you think, ways to improve the ordinance, or?
So, and again, I have it electronically. I'm not quite a millennial, but I'm right on the edge of how that goes, and I also am better at taking notes. One of the things I noted is it makes reference to like small houses, trailers, you know, essentially all these different kind of outbuildings that become residences.
Right.
Is the intention of the order to deter that from happening at all, or just for those to be causes of disorder, for lack of a better? One of the incidences, or one of the things that creates incidents at that particular residence, and another one that I can think of, is not always the main structure on the house. It's other things, oftentimes which are mobile or not permanent. So I guess my only question when I read the order is there anything that this order or another order does to reduce the ability for somebody to just park a movable item on the yard in perpetuity, or use the old chicken coop as a place for people to hang their hat in the...
Well, those things are addressed by other
ordinances,
yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you follow the state law, but, you know, there's tiny homes and accessory dwelling units, or auxiliary dwelling units, and they're going to be allowed more as residents, full-time residents. And so the reason they were mentioned in there is to make sure that any place where somebody's living or occupying on the property is subject to the ordinance.
Okay. And any dwelling that shouldn't be or isn't by code would be dealt with on another, by way of another ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the only question.
Good, well, thank you.
Yeah, that was simple and easy.
Anybody else? Comments?
So if, say, a neighbor, writes up a report or a complaint that could be used in court for this ordinance, and we wouldn't need your report or your
That's
deputy's
correct.
report.
In section C of 5.1, under definitions, the event to which the visit pertains shall be documented by police report. At the end of that, it also says, and sworn affidavit by citizen. I took that to mean that somebody could come make a sworn affidavit without a police response, and that would bear the same. I'm not sure if that was the intention of that clause, but I took it to mean that it wouldn't necessarily only be contingent upon a police response.
Right.
To that. Yeah. So that's how I took it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to make sure we understand it, enforcement is, we get a report, we call somebody in front of a special hearing held by the selectmen.
Okay.
The selectmen act kind of like a panel of judges, so to speak. You know, we hear the evidence, the person who has been complained against that can speak, and we can bring an attorney with them if they want to. But at the end of that process, we then, as a board, vote on what we think should be done. And what we can do is, come to some kind of an agreement with the occupants. And if we can't come to an agreement, or we can't, or violations continue, then the town can take the person to court. So the actual enforcement is by the town, through the town attorney.
Yeah, like any other violation of any other law.
Ordinance.
Yeah.
The only two things that came to mind also, I'm assuming this is probably mirrored or similar to other towns, of this ordinance.
Yeah.
Exist.
A lot.
Two things that came to mind while reading that I would just be sure that you have, as this body, that you become aware of, and then maybe ensure with your council, is that it references criminal activity. And I would just want to be, if I was a member of this body, if this was my town, I would want to have the answer of, does that require us to take criminal enforcement action, or is simply a warning? So oftentimes if we show up, at a loud party complaint, we don't always take criminal enforcement action. So often cases, we will tell the homeowner, quiet down, if we have to come back, somebody's going to go to jail for disorderly conduct, or whatever whatever. So I would just want to know and have that clear. I'm not asking for the answer, just something for you to consider. Would that be something that triggered notification to the town if that happens? Because in theory, for example, if I went to somebody's house on Monday and they were having a loud party and I warned them and then I had to go back Wednesday, my warning from Monday I wouldn't be able to necessarily enforce my warning from Monday on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I could go to the same house 5 times in 2 weeks and each night give them that one disorderly conduct warning and have never taken any criminal enforcement.
No, I understand, but do you write a report?
We would do a report on
So
any
what
of
we're
those.
looking for is the reports
Okay,
that show the reoccurring activity.
perfect.
We don't necessarily need to have somebody, issue the summons or.
Okay. Great. That's all I have.
Good, thank you.
Those are my only input. No, there was one more. I knew there were two. And I don't know if it's bothered this community, and it may seem out of left field, and maybe it's another time, another place, but with the legalization of marijuana in the state, some communities are having an issue with the odor of the growing of marijuana, and how it bothers. So I'm not sure if this would be the appropriate ordinance to add that onto as part of, or if you already have a pre-existing ordinance. But just so you know, from elsewhere outside of Baldwin, Maine, that is something that we deal with, mostly in smaller communities where the homes are closer together, but just something to consider while you're going through the process of enacting your ordinance.
We have marijuana ordinances. It's been a while since I've read them, but I do believe they deal with odor.
Okay,
Yep.
there's my input.
Thank you.
I hope it was worth the wait, and I hope I didn't keep you waiting. I thought we were starting my part at 6:30.
That's all right. Very good.
I'm happy to stick around and answer questions too.
How he got there in history, but now that the property has changed ownership and you own it, he's a tenant. He's been there for more than 2 weeks. He's a tenant, whether he's paying rent or not. So if you follow the law that gives him 30 days to leave, that you have to give a tenant 30 days to leave.
I think you're talking about something different.
Pardon?
I think you're talking about something different.
You talk about 19 Dearborn?
No.
Oh.
No. I'm talking about Pigeon Brook Road.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that Pigeon Brook Road.
Oh.
What we're talking about is a town ordinance against disorderly activity.
Yeah?
We're not talking about a specific
Right.
place.
Okay.
Right.
At this moment.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's all you need from me?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
You know how to get a hold of me if you need me. No credit calls to 911. Call the office line. Take care, folks.
See you back.
All right.
The next thing on the agenda is Cumberland County Regional Assessment. Was Ben going to be here for that?
No. He sent the abatement and supplements that needed, they're in that yellow folder. This is concerned about code.
You got it?
No, here.
What's your kind of profile?
Assessed to Road Road. Says right here, assessed to Road Road.
Well, these guys,
when I first spoke with him about a week or so ago about it, and he said one abatement for the fund supplement. That here what the,
Next thing on the agenda.
So we're all set now?
Yep.
Let's see the planning board members' appointments.
Okay, we've got, appointments for 3 members of the board, 2 primary and 1 alternate.
Joe?
So we have 5 planning board members. We have no room in our, we have no room for any more planning board members. We do have room for alternates. We would appreciate alternates. Normally, the number of alternates is 2, but our bylaws say we can have as many as you want to appoint.
Do all 3 as the alternate?
It doesn't matter really, because the member can, vote as an alternate
Yeah.
if they're needed.
We got Matt, and we never replaced Matt Sandman, right?
Correct.
So we're down, you got Matt,
One of the alternates. would
Tracy,
step up.
David, and Dawn, and yourself.
Matt, Tracy, Don, David, and myself.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
What do you want to do?
So 3 of them, alternate?
Sure. The idea is that when they have a meeting, we have people there who do this.
Well, I think they'd learn, even if, to be honest with you, I'd like to see more as full members, but they're gonna learn from watching the meetings and stuff, how the thing works, and it's one step at a time.
So what happens, they're an alternate by tradition on the planning board is allowed to participate in the discussion as a planning board member. It's just when it comes to the vote, we have to be legal about not having more than 5 people vote. So at the beginning of the meeting, the chair will announce who are the voting members for that meeting. And in the course of time, one person doesn't show up one time, another person doesn't show up another, and alternates get to vote.
Mm-hmm.
so do the bylaws clearly state that you're only allowed 5 true full members?
Correct. And they clearly state that while they prefer 2 alternates, as many as the selectmen will appoint allow.
I can tell you that when I was on the board, I think it was alternate.
Yeah.
A lot of activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of voting as a member. I wrote the, shooting range ordinance. Participated in a lot of reviews of ordinances.
Yeah.
It have a big impact and learn a lot as a, alternate.
I think you can too.
Yeah.
Do you want to sign these?
Yeah, when it states here what they member are, so we want to leave them as a member or alternate?
That's an alternate.
You want all the alternates?
Yeah. You only got 5 members.
The bylaws say you can only have 5, you can only have 5, and you've got 5. I think you've got some good people there.
Great, thank you.
You got, it's some age difference, which I think is a big thing, experience is a big thing. So,
If we have younger members, they get a chance to get experience.
Right. Right, you, and then
the thing we got is a town health officer appointment.
Turns out that Dr. McKay's appointment is expired. And Robin, you talked to him, he's still doing it, so.
I thought you was getting ready to retire too.
He's retired from practicing medicine, but he,
You'll still be the health officer?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Next thing's a town plow truck, a new one.
Chris gave us the package of 3 bids.
thought you were leaving.
I need to sleep, but that woke him up.
Close.
And talked to Chris about it. So I saw him and looked at the one for the international. And it was $47,000 a year. Oh, I'm sorry. $41,849.39 per year. So the town meeting, we approved the lease of a new plow truck. At that time, we estimated it at $37,000 a year.
38, I think.
38.
47.5. The this is considerably higher, but this is a 5-year lease. So, if we're allowed to do this, we can go ahead and get the truck made and we can lease it for 5 years. Now, there's not enough money in the reserve account to cover that, but we've been paying for the other truck generally out of raise and appropriated funds. I think it's just this year that we started paying for it out of the reserve account.
No.
So, I believe we should approve the purchase of the truck. Just for the idea that, if I looked at the numbers there, and there's enough to cover it in the reserve account for the next 3 years, with both truck payments and this new one, but in 4 years, we're gonna have to start putting money up. And we also have the possibility that we wanna buy out the current lease on the international.
You know, that one, after 5 years, can you buy it out?
Yes, 65,000 to buy out on that one. The current, the 21s, I believe it's a $70,000 buyout at the end of it. One of the reasons why we were gonna look at doing the buyout on the 21 when the lease runs out is because of the wait time for the international.
Well, I was gonna say that can happen on this new one.
Right, yeah, you know, the international, it's the lowest truck as far as price-wise, all around, the lowest lease and the lowest purchase price. The only downside is that because they're the lowest, they also have the longest build time. You know, they're talking, we just had, one of the DOT guys stop by the shop this afternoon, and they're still waiting for trucks they ordered a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Wow.
He says you'll be lucky to see it in 24. From International, you know, it's-
Yeah.
versus like, Freightliner was shortly after that, and then the Mac, they were only a 12 to 14, 16 month wait. So, but because International is usually the cheapest, most towns, state, everything like that, they all buy from International because they're usually the lower price.
Yeah.
You know, so their build time is 2 years versus a year and a half. So, with that being said, by the time we get this new truck, in theory, depending on when we get it, it'll be the 21 truck, lease will be up. We're spending all, if we gave up the 21 and we gave it back at the end of the lease, you wouldn't be gaining a truck, you'd just be replacing the 21.
Okay.
So then we'd still have a Sterling that's sitting down there that we can't use, can't run, we can't pass inspection again.
Yeah, and we're gonna make a plan to replace that.
Right, well, that was the,
Yeah.
you know, this truck was supposed to be the plan to replace it, we just, I don't think any of us were really anticipating the
What was it,
2-year purchase.
Right.
You know, build wait, you know, it's 2022 right now, and they're looking at building us at 2024.
$243,545.
Yeah, the Mac was almost 287,000.
Yeah,
So just, just let you know what the difference is in some of the trucks here.
yeah, it was, and the Freightliner was only, I think,
It was pennies.
yeah, pennies, but they wouldn't build the truck that we wanted, per se. You know, their truck was a little bit lighter weight, with a chain to the front end, the frame was a little bit smaller.
Well, if you stay with international, you're like a fleet dealer. You know what I mean? My experience with trucks is if something happens to one truck, it's gonna happen to the next one sometime. So if you can get parts, you know, you can cross from one to the other, you're better off.
Yeah.
Well, I move we, approve the purchase of the truck.
Connie, what-
Connie.
Joe, I'm sorry, I just have a question. When we, purchased the last truck or leased the last truck, there was a maintenance agreement in that lease as well. Is there a maintenance agreement in this one?
So from looking at the lease agreement from the last time, even though it was sold to you as a lease, the maintenance agreement, from what I can read, there wasn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Because we were all led to believe that there was.
Yeah, from what I read in there, from what I read in the last lease, it doesn't look like there is.
So there isn't in this one either.
It's the same lease agreement that we have now. It's essentially the exact same truck. It's just 3 years, 4 years newer, and the only, really the only thing I changed on it was putting a tarp on the front body. That was, it, I think.
And this was a stainless body too?
Yeah, it's the same, basically identical to the 21 that Brian had built, stainless body. The tarp was the only thing that I was like, why don't we have a tarp on it? You gotta secure the load.
So what's the advantage of doing a lease over buying with, over time? My understanding is the advantage of the lease was to have a maintenance agreement, so that with the exposure to salt and
Yeah.
all of that, we wouldn't have that.
The only advantage that I can see is, one, if it was a real problematic truck, or it was, taken care of well, or, it rusted out, or something went wrong, is that you could turn it back in. That's the only advantage to the lease versus just financing it or buying it outright.
So, where there's no maintenance, so to speak, unless it's something catastrophic, which would be covered in a warranty, is it more? Right, so.
Basically, you're leasing the truck and financing
All
at the
right.
same time.
Okay, so then what's the comparison then in terms of leasing versus financing, buying?
When you're a municipality, basically the interest rates are almost the exact same as financing versus leasing. The only thing that would be really, per se, holding up the town from just financing the truck versus leasing it is the way that the article was written at town meeting for the lease, a 5-year lease for the truck.
So, I'll read you what's the warranty that comes with it. The warranty standard for the models of the line. Services towing, service call for 60 months, unlimited mileage, and there's no start here. Service contract extended to 60 months, 100,000 miles. Extended Cummins L9 engine coverage, protection plan 1, tax improvements. Service contract extension on the Allison. We're getting the Cummins, right?
Yeah, well, it's a Cummins motor with an Allison transmission.
Okay, through 60-month unlimited miles for Allison 3000 RDS for the dump truck mixer location. Service contract extended, warranty for 60 months, 100,000 miles. Service contract extended major components warranties to 60 months, 100,000 miles, includes front, rear axle, rotor shaft, transfer case. So it's extended warranty in essence, but if you have to go get an oil change or something like that, we pay.
Yep. Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. I have a motion on the table.
That's like, usually be a good man.
Yeah. So,
All right.
That's that truck. Water.
Well, we got one coming down the road.
We'll get one eventually, right?
We do need to sit down though and do a longer term plan.
Yeah. For all the equipment and trucks.
So next year you buy a new one, another new one, so the fifth year.
Yeah, okay. Get to be a point that you're not wrong.
Well, you know, I think we was wrong by not doing this a little sooner than what we've done it. Because we're caught now in between what you've got for the number of trucks and what you need for the number of trucks.
Right,
Yeah,
it takes 2 years to make one,
Yeah.
and you've got to start 2 years ahead of the curve, so.
Right, that's just like fire trucks right now are about that. Yeah, 2 no gas main.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is a Glenvale solar project. Yeah.
Okay, we had the, information meeting last week. And, the way I would summarize the results is that the individuals there seem to support the idea that we need a TIF. Whether we do a credit enhancement agreement or not.
right.
And, well, along with that, if we list a fire station as one of the major recipients of TIF money.
Yeah.
The second would be a child care facility in the other half of the old school building, and the third would be broadband expansion.
Yeah.
So based on that, I will start a discussion with Greg M. at Roman Woodson about putting a package together.
Yeah.
And, so we can go from there.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of committed right now. We're kind of thinking this stuff.
Yeah.
But just see, you know, if it don't come back favorable to us, maybe we can walk away. If it does,
And we're not gonna put a package together that's not approved. But, I think the up or down vote will be here in the town.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just wanted to summarize and get to all on board with that.
Yep.
next thing is Bruce.
I got some papers I want you to look at, and I gave them to you once before. It's percentages of the calls, payroll report, attendance and things like that. Just take it home and look at it. That will just give you some ballpark figure of what's going on with us, no one's blindsided. Also in that is the gas plant. It's got 3 or 4 pages in Dodge Oil, and it shows what could happen.
I
just don't want, because I think sometimes we, put it on the back burner and don't think much about it. But these are things that's on my mind that looks so that I cannot handle that.
Right.
I'm gonna be right up front with it. The other thing with that,
Wouldn't be a good place to have the firehouse either.
no. There's one right there, if you notice, it's right in the middle of it.
There's ground zero there.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Let's just hope that don't happen, but what I'm saying, I don't think there's enough water in the world or anything to do anything. And that area, if something like that happened, is gone.
I've seen forklifts catch on fire and burn, I've seen 3 of them with propane tanks bent. Scary,
Yeah.
very scary.
No good.
They're 40 pounders.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there again, I didn't want him and Howard whether to bring it forward or not, and I said, oh, no one's really paid attention to this thing for a while. It's a possibility, that's one thing that's in the back of my mind, the Wilmington Lumber and some of these other places in town.
Yeah.
So, I've started working on EMA plans, and I'm probably gonna have the one that the lady from, EMA in Cumberland County came up the other day, and she's coming back tomorrow, so we are moving forward with plans. And if you guys don't mind, I would like to show around this place. I mentioned the kitchen, and I didn't get time enough. She was wanting to see the kitchen and stuff like that. There's a lot of places don't have that. But the other things, if the power was out, we don't have power and things like that. So, but what I'd like to do is to show her around, like, the kitchen and possibly downstairs. They're coming out and do, like an audit type thing, but that's more neat than anything on the radios for,
Yeah.
And so, I'm trying to work on that now, that I've backed off on the other stuff a little bit. They're looking for, like a warming place or someplace if something happens major, where do you go with the people? And they're looking here. So all I can say is I'll work with them and see what we can do.
Okay.
I'm not saying yes, no, or anything, about anything like that.
So, Bruce, if we don't have power, generator backup, and it's cold, how are we to warm
No,
people?
we're not going to. All right, so these are things that, there again, we gotta be thinking, looking at as we go forward. And maybe with this fire station and stuff, if it was in this area, you might think about that. I'm just saying, let's keep all avenues open at this point, not knowing what's gonna
Have
happen.
the fire station instead of here, the warming station, the cooling station.
Well, there again, if you had something close by, you could run, power.
Put an auxiliary on it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's keep our eyes open as we're moving forward with these projects and see what we can kind of combine and not combine.
Yep.
If the town doesn't want it, so be it, but I feel so would fail if I didn't say we have this avenue here that we might be able to do.
Yeah.
So, and I think after Bob's and my fiasco the other night, that if you don't mind, with the fire department, I'll go buy a projector that's more modern than these things that we have to play with for 2 hours. It may be a, Walmart or Staples projector, but what I'll do is just take the funds out of one of the accounts.
They're relatively inexpensive now.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Right.
But I was thinking about that, why are we just playing around with this thing and we can't use it when we want to? This is easy. So if you guys don't mind, I'll just go do it and take it out of the funds, and it will be here to use.
Yeah.
And that's all I got right at the moment, unless you guys have something. Take a look at these things and read through them.
Yeah, I just noticed that you got, 15 people on the payroll now.
Read through it. Read through it. Thank you.
How much of this has come out of the study, has the study pushed you to do this?
The study is pushed, and what it is, a lot of this is from, NIMS. NIMS is the one, it's a reporting system we got, and that's what I've been working on way back, trying to get this thing set up, so I can go in and push a button, print this stuff off. And this stuff, if you notice, is from 12/1 up until today. So, that's, yeah, the study has pushed it along, but I think it's important to have facts and figures. We have it.
Thank you.
Oh, you got anything? Nothing? Paul? Jimmy?
Oh,
That, piece of land down on the end there, does the town own that? I got somebody that might be interested in buying it. The one for the, is it on the river or on Halfmoon Pond?
It's on the river. It's on the river.
Okay, yeah.
The Don Vale.
We've got a whole stretch of lots and
Lots in there, okay. No, somebody asked me about it, and they put a duck line, and they thought it was on Halfmoon Pond. It was Gordon Wentworth. He was asking about it, and the town gave,
It's off the river,
okay.
which isn't very far from that pond, but.
Right. I don't know if he did or.
there was a gentleman who owns a piece of that. The one right up on the very end.
Yeah.
It came in, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago and said, you know, anybody wants to buy a piece of property, or does the town want it? And I thought, well, find a real estate agent, somebody will buy it.
Yeah.
It's on my desk right now if you want it.
Okay.
Just, so you can see where it's at.
Yeah, yeah.
He said he picked it up at a raffle at the East Baldwin Fire Department.
Where we get that log from?
Yeah.
It's been that long, long time now.
How long ago?
Good ball.
It was a raffle, and, yeah,
Did the bridge come with it or something? Wow.
I think it's
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I've got all the information, they threw it on my desk, and I'm like.
That's all I have.
Bill, did you get anything?
Right at the moment,
How are you settling in so far?
working out pretty well.
Good.
Learning all the roads and all the buildings and stuff?
Yes, indeed. Met a lot of good people,
Yeah, good.
and it's gonna work out just fine. It's a little dicey on Friday, but by the time I made all the calls and did all the inspections I had to do, it was a pretty full day.
Wes?
Nothing special.
Nothing? Joe? Kathy?
The library fair did pretty decently. We got about $900, which is gonna be a big help, considering the price of fuel. Not so much. We'll see how that goes. We have a report about $2,500 that we got for the library for technology. So I have to finish that up. I bought some tablets for e-reading, and 2 of them do games and such for like the next generation. They're time limited, so they can borrow them for 2 weeks. If they buy anything, it's on their dime, not ours. And when it loans out, we have a credit card number in case something goes awry, and it doesn't come back, then we can charge the person for the cost of the tablet. So we're trying to put some insurance behind it and some repair through safety in case anything goes wrong. We've got the warranty for a year, but beyond that, they can cover broken screens and that kind of thing. So we're just trying to go forward. We've got a couple of people who think they want to be librarians, and as long as they just don't think they're gonna be playing with kids, but then we should be okay. But we'll do some, interviews and see if they're qualified for doing it. We got a couple of volunteers that are learning the system. Some of them will stick through the winter, some will not. So we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, it's moving. I still got a lot of books. Anybody wants some books? I got the free books at the library. But I'm trying to take them to None Such Books and to Bookworm and Gorham and see if they want them, because they can buy stuff. Books A Million it's not worth gas to get there. They want to give you pennies for books. And I'm like, make it worth my while. But these other people say that they will. So, it's hard. I don't want to dump it on the town. I don't want to dump it on Salvation Army or Goodwill, because they're resisting the donation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do it in small batches and things that are appropriate. But it just needs more time in to get it done well. You know, everything takes more, like the trucks, you know, planning ahead, just figuring out the finances. So we'll see what we can do. So.
Stevie? Bruce? Chad? Please quiet down there.
Ben, well, we had a little problem. Kids down there today. They left the hot rod up through there. And where I parked a little further. They came down through from the pants. They went right in behind me, spun right out like nothing. Well, I don't know if you ought to have somebody, sheriff or something, keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Until it's full of potholes, let's slow them down.
Stop dragging the road.
They call you, we'll look forward everyone to you.
Chris?
We had the roadside mower for 2 weeks. We did quite a bit of road, not as much as I'd like to, but things happen and you're out of time, so, other than that, we're gonna get some other stuff ready to go and do some more work. I don't know if any of you guys are interested, but we are hosting a snow and ice control in November here, November 3rd, I think it is. You guys, if any of you wanted to go, so.
Is it a seminar or?
Yeah, kinda, yeah, 8 to 11, I think, half day.
Yeah.
The state puts on, so we're gonna, I know, obviously we'll be here, but, unless it snows. Like, November's kind of pushing it, but, I know, like, Sebago's gonna come over and do it, and I know she said she's got a couple of people from Wyndham that's gonna do it, so she's gonna have some people come over and we're gonna take it, if any of you guys are interested.
What day is that on?
It's on Thursday morning.
Okay.
Let me know, and I can, that way I can give her a head count and how many people.
You're gonna provide coffee and donuts?
If you want me to, I can.
I think you should, because I mean, it says right on that thing, if they're not going to.
That's all.
I mean, I think we
I'll
ought
coffee
to
and donuts.
yeah.
Stevie goes to Dunkin' every morning anyhow.
Yeah.
That's an easy task.
Yeah.
We're not paving this year.
Huh?
Are we gonna do a paving project this year?
We're gonna try. I actually just met with Allstate today to look at Harris Road, because that was one that Brian had budgeted money for, or allotted, or assigned money for the LRAP money last year, along with banking it to Douglas Mountain. So I met with them for that road, and we looked at one other one that is another smaller road that we'll see what we can do and what we can afford. I was hoping to do School Street, but we're gonna have to push that off because of the allotment and stuff like that. It's already been made, so.
Okay.
That was a little bit of surprise to me, but we're working around it, so. in hopes we're gonna either pave this fall for Harris Road and maybe the other one, and, if not, it'll be first thing in May.
They'll put you on the list,
Yeah.
so you don't have to wait till the end of the year again.
Yep, yeah, and when I was talking to him, he says, you know, if you guys are willing to wait till May to pave, he goes, I can give you a lot better deal. And he goes, because that price, he says, I have a hard time filling May slots. So, he says, May and November are my two hardest slots to fill.
Do it by June 30th, we'll still be in the same fiscal year.
Right, exactly. Well, that's kind of what I was like, well, I gotta wait, at least for one of the roads. But,
Okay.
yeah, that's that. That's it. And I'll get in touch with International tomorrow morning and get paperwork started for you guys, and I don't know whether Debbie's gonna sign it, you guys gonna sign it, I don't know. We'll find out. We'll get it over.
All right.
Somebody will catch up somewhere.
I guess that's everybody. So we gotta go into executive session. I move the select board go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA, section 405(6)(f) to discuss confidential records.
Second it.
Thank you all for coming.